Hi there. Welcome to Soul Chariot. Today's March 9th, 2025, 2:30 in the afternoon, and I am completely winging it. It's one of those situations where you may have heard someone say it or have said, yourself that if you would have told me a year ago or 5 years ago that I'd be doing this, I'd say, no way, no chance. But here I am making a very impromptu first audio on YouTube, and I truly never thought that would be the case. It just never came to my awareness to do such a thing. And I'm putting this out there with no expectations or attachments or control, and with just trust that if someone finds this audio and connects with it, or not, whatever is in alignment, will happen. And I'll share a little bit about my experience here and just go from there. So, I am doing this after a hermit phase. I'm coming out of a hermit phase, and I'm wondering if any of you can relate to that, where everything in my life has changed. And I had a situation like this about 20 years ago, too, where each aspect of my life, career, relationship, residence, and even health, had big shifts in them. And they marked very interesting times in my life. And with this latest situation, I am currently recovering from cancer and chemo, which even saying is so odd. After having moved from a town where I lived for 20 years, wow, about 20 years, longer, 22 years or so, in a job as a counselor in private practice, and which was wonderful. And also with a change of relationship, ultimately after I had moved, a long-term relationship had had ended, and then the cancer came, and uh, here I am waking up from all of that now in a quieter atmosphere in the country, and with all this nature around, and it's wonderful. And with all of these things through the last few years, um, have been also marked with what I'm coining as, a process of spiritual awakening, and where everything is I'm going to say forgive the editing on this because I'm just using my phone recorder and I don't know how to edit anything. So this is going to be very choppy. So if anybody ever actually listens to this, thank you for your patience. But where my perception of life has changed, my thoughts, my ideas, and although the goal, I've always wanted to become spiritually enlightened. And when I look back at all of what has happened, which I've learned through these years too, as like tower moments, dark night of the soul, uh, ego deaths, working with the shadow of the personality, all of these things as part of this spiritual awakening has just changed everything. And it's an interesting time, to say the least. So this is a very, very rough summary, obviously, but I'd like to, move forward. When I think about, I had transferred my private practice And after 25 years in the field, the psychiatric field, clinical field, I always wanted to expand my practice into holistic modalities and techniques, theories, and care for people. And after all of this has happened, I realized how burnt out I was. And going back into clinical care it's not an option at this point. It was wonderful, and I've been so lucky to have the clients that I've had, the colleagues and relationships that I've shared with teams to assist clients and patients, and I'm just so lucky for all those experiences. And now it's time for something a little bit different, and this is a part of it. This is a part of it. Just being in the here and now, being creative, and going with what lights me up. And at this point, I think it's just kind of sharing, because I know also part of what I've learned is that there literally is more light in the universe, more light, helping us, humanity, expand to a higher level of consciousness. And the collective consciousness, which is all of our energy, right, is changing to a higher level. I've learned about, third dimension, third density, fifth dimension, kind of fifth density, sort of. I may not be saying that exactly right, but and different timelines and shifting timelines and realities, so on and so forth. So many different things. Soul contracts, the Akashic records, remembering past lives, but also the idea that past lives are really just connecting to parallel lives because time is not linear. Technically, this is a theory. You may or may not agree, and that's all okay. This is just about, at this moment, sharing what I've learned and being interested in exploring conversation, ultimately, potentially through this channel. If anyone ever listens to this. You never know. You never know. And this is going to be sloppy and messy and unedited. And I don't know if anyone will ever bear to get through it if they come upon it. Or if you do, hello and thank you. And if not, that's okay. I understand. With the concept of the parallel lives and remembering past lives, you know, it runs so deep, right? Where actually your memory could just be experiencing that parallel life while it is going on because of the idea that everything exists all at the same time and is all happening at once. I mean, it gets very trippy and amazing. And I just have to, during my hermit phase here and just being stuck in bed during chemo and just through, and I am grateful for the whole experience, just the depth of that suffering and pain. And during that time, just being so grateful for the fact that I'm so lucky to have a roof over my head, to have insurance at the time, to have support from family if I needed it, to have a loving family member who was there for me through thick and thin, caring for me, and family and friends who were always available. And I just remember a time I was just really feeling not only so grateful, but I turned into a bit of a prayer for and a level of compassion for the people that didn't have the resources that I had and the suffering that they had gone through or are going through, or people that, or will go through, and just being so grateful even at the worst time of my life. And I think one of the worst times in my life. And all of that depth now is reaching to the other side, the heights of it, through the trauma and the awakening, and as part of it. So I could go on forever, and I know the idea is that I share my story, but it just the idea of, that'll come out over time. But putting this out there in terms of how much is changing in the world and how much chaos there is, but also understanding that a lot of this chaos can then bring out more and more compassion to help continue to elevate us to that higher level of consciousness. So interesting. And people, YouTube channels that I have listened to, I want to mention at this point Pamela Aralyn, Aaralyn. I believe that's the correct spelling. She's amazing. She has a YouTube channel and also goes on to other, channels. And recently, also, I want to give a shout out to Courtney from Divinely Aligned. And even the tarot channels, amazing. Nordic Light, White Feather Tarot, Silver Leaf Tarot, MH Tarot. Many, many channels that I've listened to, and it's just expanded my knowledge. Books on my shelf right now. And something that, one of the books that I got me into learning about around the same time of understanding the Akashic records. I should say that I have that tarot here, Akashic Records Tarot. The Akashic Tarot, AKASHIC, by Sharon Ann Klinger and Sandra Ann Taylor. The idea of the Akashic Records, some of you, may have heard of it and probably know so much more than I do about it, and others maybe not at all. But it's the idea that it's an energetic area that has actually been confirmed by, physics. It's basically part of the quantum field, I believe. That is like a compendium of knowledge. It holds all the knowledge of all the universes and your past, present, future, all the energy. And you can find out about, different, topics or areas, or learn about yourself through the Akashic records. So, but I was started to say during around that time, I discovered a book on the shelf here that was through a family member of Sacred Contracts, Awakening Your Divine Potential. And that's by Carolyn Myss, MYSS, best-selling author of The Anatomy of the Spirit. So many things to tap upon and to get into, and that's just a part of this. So I've had personal experiences prior to these last couple of years where, through meditation and transcendence, and I've had a near-death experience. I almost died, and I was in a tunnel, and my aunt and cousin were there. She tapped me on the shoulder, said it was time to go. And I said 3 times, I'm not ready. I'll do anything, I'll do anything, I'll do anything. And then I was back. I was back in the room with my now ex-fiance at the time, and that's when we called 911. And things changed there, too. All of these things have, I think, changed my energy to being more and more receptive. It's very interesting, but with the different experiences, but more the last couple years through all of this, all these different experiences. So I am just putting this all out there, and I think ultimately, we'll see what happens with, I would call it work, right? I'm going to call it work because we've always called it work. But now I look at it differently in terms of what I may do for a living and service to others. That is also exactly where I'm supposed to be, but that feels more like joy, and not to take away from my work, because I was always in a place for the most of the years. I truly, truly enjoyed the work, the job, the counseling, uh, but its heaviness and um, areas of discussion, and the subject matter, it was focused on, of course, healing and helping uh, people through their struggles and finding their way in life. And I have said and will always say, as I've said to my clients, that I learned much more from them than they could have ever learned from me, I'm sure. But now the conversations are more about transcendence and living your soul's passion, your soul's calling, or understanding it, more just the topic in general. Consciousness, soul work, energy, right? And there's a lot that goes into that too. And I am just, as always, a student and rambling on with this. And I think what I do is with service to others will somehow come together, and integrating the meditation and the sound healing and the health coaching in there, and all the 25 years of experience of the counseling. But I'm just going to see where this all goes. So this was a babble. If you're still here, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? But I guess the question is, where is your soul chariot today? Whether you're soaring through the cosmos, which would be awesome, or stuck in a ditch somewhere. It's okay. It's all part of the ride, and you are in good company. Well, thank you for listening, and maybe we'll meet again on the path. Be well, with love.